Join us on a voyage through the wormhole, your gateway to groundbreaking thinking on AI, space exploration, a healthy planet, and a more intelligent future. I'm your host, Jonathan Knowles.
The Wormhole is produced by Trillium Technologies, leading the application of artificial intelligence for planetary stewardship, space exploration, and human health. Help us explore what's over the event horizon by following us on LinkedIn and Twitter at trillium.tech. Together, let's build an intelligent future.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are always pleased that you have, and we have a particularly interesting, I have to say all of them are interesting, of course, but we're very happy to have our good friend Hugo Wagner from Airbus. But before we get started with that today, we have been wanting to share more from our community members. Those from the FDL.ai and ESLab.ai community. These would be our researchers, our faculty members, our partners, the people who we do this with from NASA and the European Space Agency and Google and NVIDIA and others. And today we would like you to meet one of those community members. Her name is Lily, and we're going to let her speak for herself. So please meet Lily, one of our researchers from the FDL and ESLab.ai community. Welcome to another wormhole. We are spending several minutes today with one of our community members, getting to know a little bit about her journey, what she is working on, and where she sees herself in the future. We are very happy to welcome Lily Fleischman. Lily is a PhD student at the University of Oxford. Lily, thank you so much for joining us today. We'd like to start by asking a little bit about how you ended up doing what you're doing here at the intersection of heliophysics and machine learning. What was it that put you on this path, or something that really accelerated your journey into science and technology?
So I was studying for my master's in informatics in Edinburgh. And I still remember I think my third year, was kind of starting to think about what I would like to focus on in the future. And I had been introduced to AI kind of through different courses, which I thought was fascinating, but came across a project led by my current PhD supervisor on using machine learning and AI to better understand cloud aerosol interactions, which essentially are the biggest kind of contribution to our uncertainty in climate projection. And I just thought that was really cool, because I was like, wow, this is what I was looking for. I can use this kind of method of AI and ML that I'm super interested in and apply it to something that actually matters.
That's great. So climate was really the thing that got your attention for this. Great. And what is it that's special about the way you do this research using the FDL model, your team and how you work and who you work together with?
So in general, the work that we've been doing this summer on the 3D Cloud project is very closely related to the research I do in my PhD, because when I'm looking at clouds, it's usually in 2 dimensions from the satellites. What's really crucial and key is the kind of 3D information of where clouds are in the atmosphere, which affects how they interact with the radiation and essentially how they affect our climate. Much like the FDL approach, what you need to answer these questions is an interdisciplinary team of researchers. And so for the FDL, we had cloud scientists, machine learning experts, Earth observation experts come together to push forward this amazing project over 8 weeks over the summer. And in the same way, if you want to create a climate model, a global kilometer scale climate model, it takes really a large European initiative where scientists from a variety of backgrounds, as well as computer scientists, come together to try and push that forward.
Great. And it's, of course, got to be wonderful to have the resources of ESA, the European Space Agency, definitely a leader in Earth observation and taking that to Earth action, which is what your research is helping us do. What can you imagine yourself doing, working on in the next 5 to 10 years?
So what I'm really enjoying at the moment is just being part of the kind of climate modeling community. I think there's great people, and it also just feels like we're doing meaningful work, and we get super interesting kind of scientific questions to look at. So I can very much see myself staying part of that. There's a lot of amazing, interesting research done at universities all over the world. There's organizations, international organizations trying to kind of develop and improve these climate models, kind of stay at this intersection of machine learning and physics to try and improve climate models and incorporate as much of the kind of Earth observation data as we can and see where we can get.
Fabulous. We look forward to seeing great things coming from you, Lily, and all of your efforts in the future. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And there's some news here for you folks who might be interested in joining this community. We will be opening applications for our Earth Systems Lab and for next year, and you have an opportunity to apply. And if you are interested in doing that, please go to eslab.ai and learn more about what it would mean for you to be a member of this exciting community. Great. With that, then let's do this. Let's go ahead and bring up our guest today. And that would be my very good friend, Hugo Wagner from Airbus. Hugo, it's always good to see you, my friend. Happy that you were able to join us today. And there we go. Get you switched into the right position over here. Hugo and I have been friends for many years. And he's much younger than me, but I've been watching with interest his wonderful career. And what I had to say about you was absolutely sincere on LinkedIn, Hugo. If those of you should, folks should go read that. And these days, Hugo is at a company that we've heard a little bit about. That would be Airbus. Airbus has been an FDL partner for the past 6 years. And you have done a few different things during your almost 7 years now that you've been at Airbus, as well as some other wonderful things before that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your journey, what you're doing now, where you see things going, what advice you might have for people. I believe that people will be inspired by all of that and interested to learn about the things that you have been working on. So I'm going to dive right in. I want you to be the one mostly talking today, Hugo. So let's get started because you're a spaceman in the sense that, like me and most of the people in our community, you are a bit enamored with space and you've been on that journey for a while. And I'm always curious how you started that journey. What was it that first triggered something in you that said, yeah, space, I want to be involved in, or aerospace, I want to be involved in that domain. When did it all begin, Hugo?
Thank you, Jonathan. It's an honor to be on this show. I think I can trace back my space journey to the early days of understanding what it means to go up in space. The whole symbolic of it, the scientific endeavor related to space missions. But really, if I had to think hard and point at a defining moment in time, I would probably tell you about this Discovery Channel mini-series of documentary called "When We Left Earth: The NASA Missions." I don't know if you've seen it, Jonathan, but it's very short. It's only 6 episodes of 1 hour each.
I now have something to go watch.
Well, go for it. It's actually narrated by Gary Sinise, and as a big Forrest Gump fan, I was thrilled to watch the documentary. Highly encourage anyone to do so. It came out in 2008, so I was 18 years old, and I remember watching it in my living room with my dad, the two of us. And it narrates the journey of the Gemini missions, the Mercury missions, the Apollo missions, all the way to the construction of the international space stations, the shuttle missions. And I just remember being incredibly inspired by that journey. It also, on a personal level, it coincided with at that time the passing of my mother after a 13-year battle against breast cancer. And I have to say, looking at aerospace engineering as a field from an academic standpoint was kind of an oxygen tank that I needed personally. I needed to, dive into, put my head into something, right? It could have been partying. It ended up being, studying. And I was really compelled by what aerospace engineering had to offer, because let's face it, you put in the back of your head the fact that maybe one day you could be one of those astronauts, and you want to do everything right in order to stand a chance when the application process knocks at your door. So, in order to do that, you look at the astronauts' profiles and backgrounds, and you're like, okay, they had a master or PhD in mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, bioengineering, right? I think there is something to be said about that field that encompasses so many others, from mathematics and physics to biology to material science and many other disciplines, right? Because when you're up there, you're a space plumber, but you're also compelled to be really good at many different things. So there's something to be said about that. And again, at the age of 18, when that documentary came out, and when unfortunately my mom passed away, I remember stumbling upon this principle of mass energy conservation. Near familiar with it, Lavoisier familiar was the one who kind of coined the term in the 18th century. It was used in the general relativity of Einstein a little bit after that. But this fundamental principle that energy and or matter cannot be destroyed, can be created. It just passes through, right? And if you're a spiritual person, I think there is something beautiful about that, as we all navigate what we call this earth and this universe. And it spoke to me back then. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna double click on that, and that was the beginning of the space journey. 2 years after that, Jonathan, I was incredibly lucky at the age of 20. That's quite young, to be part of an experiment in a zero-G flight back in France. That was a flight campaign organized by CNES, the French space agency, and by ESA, the European Space Agency. And I'll skip the story of how I got into that, becoming a test subject for that flight. But there's something to be said about, first of all, experiencing weightlessness. It's quite unique. It's like you're being absolutely reborn, and there is this sixth sense that you don't quite understand and grasp that suddenly inhabits you, and it's incredible. And you can play Superman in it was an A330 aircraft with all the seats removed, right? Experiments were being conducted, and being surrounded by space searchers or medical researchers was incredibly thrilling. And that was a moment in time where I really decided that space would be on my roadmap from both a personal and career standpoint.
Interesting. You know what? I've known you all this time, and I never knew that was your Your trigger. Okay, so you're a young man, 18 years old. Something has triggered in you. First of all, for those who can't tell, you've grown up in France, and
That's correct.
right. And so what next? You decide, hey, I'm off to college, and did you immediately say, I'm going to study things that push me in that direction? That's the career path I'm going to aim for. Now, I'll say, you and I both know a lot of astronauts, and they do get, that process can be very long. And many of them that I know, during that very long process, they just keep going back to school. And some become engineers and do graduate work in engineering. And then they're told, okay, not this time, but come back in a few years. And so they go get a PhD. They're told, not this time, but keep trying. They go get an MD and come back. And so by the time many of them do, they have a solid educational and research background in, as you said earlier, a variety of domains. So you already knew that about some of these folks. And so what did you start doing right after that trigger moment on your educational journey?
I mean, I can give you the conventional story that I usually tell everyone, or I can give you the untold story if you want.
Oh, we want the untold story, Hugo.
Okay. Well, the conventional story is, I did my due diligence, kind of wanted to become an astronaut myself, and was like, okay, I need proper training in a international setting, and I set my eyes on American colleges and American institutions of higher educations early on. To be honest, I was a little bit also disillusioned with the French education system, but that's for a different podcast recording, my friend. And so, I kind of knew that I wanted to have this academic experience in a top US university. So I made the decision early on to finish my studies in the US, which is what I did. I ended up going to UC Berkeley for grad school. I had an amazing time as a visiting researcher at MIT for a few months.
And by the way, you did your graduate work at Berkeley in engineering.
In mechanical engineering, that's right. Yep. That now they have created a brand new aerospace engineering department. Yeah. But back then it was kind of mixed into the mechanical engineering department. Amazing education. The untold story, Jonathan, is that I grew up listening to a lot of American music, and especially music from from the 60s, 70s. Musicians from the Laurel Canyon generation, the yes. Jackson Browns and Crosby,
I grew up down there, Hugo. Like just a few miles away from where all that was happening.
I know you did, and we have some good mutual friends in that area as well.
Yes, we do.
But I was actually listening to this French radio show that was every night between midnight and 3 a.m. and it would play a lot of those songs, the Doors, the Eagles, and you learn about someone like Jim Morrison, right, who ends up tragically dead in Paris, and you kind of think about the adventures that those musicians went on in that little patch of land in California. So if I'm completely honest, that love for those musicians or music, your incredible soft power here that you have in the US had an effect on me early on, and I was like, okay, California is going to be on the map at some point. So I need to find a good way to find myself there. And I thought, let's get a master's degree.
Rock and roll. That's great. And by the way, our good friend Jason Dunn down there, we're going to do an interview with Jason as well. Jason's one of the founders of Made in Space, and his current exciting project company that he's got going is called Outpost Space. I encourage people to go check those out. But we will get Jason on here as well, live from Laurel Canyon. We'll do that sometime.
Amazing.
So rock and roll, Berkeley, California, the music, what a wonderful thing. And you mentioned that you ended up as a visiting researcher at MIT. What did you do while you were at MIT?
I had so much fun. I think I mostly spent my time actually at the Media Lab to enjoy the free coffee, because I was in the material science department and you have to pay for tea and coffee. No, but I was incredibly lucky to work with Professor Alexander Katz in his labs on soft polymers and the applications of soft polymers in the medical field, but also in aeronautical engineering. So this was really my first hands-on lab experience, where I had to build an entire setup made of Helmut skulls to create a magnetic field for the soft polymers that had been coated in a magnetic material, so that we could direct them in a way that we wanted. And so that research had some incredible potential use cases in drug delivery, and in aeronautical engineering as well. In material science is a field very near and dear to my heart. But there's something to be said about spending some time in Cambridge, in Boston, in that part of the world. I think, as you know very well, when you're in between Kendall Square and Harvard Square, there's just something in the air, right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, so you did your time at MIT. By the way, back in the 80s, one of my email addresses was jonathan@mit.edu. Way back when, during the days of EduNet. So you also ended up in a program that was created by some other folks that we know very well, Peter and Bob and others, called ISU. Tell us what ISU stands for and what it is, how it works, and what was your experience like there, and why
Absolutely.
did you end up at ISU?
ISU stands for the International Space University. It was co-founded by the people you mentioned. And really, it stands for gathering an international community of people at all ages, really, from their early 20s to their 60s, that have a deep interest in space and want to co-create in a international and intercultural setting. So ISU offers this rotating space summer program. I went to the one in Montreal in 2014. They also offer a master's degree in Strasbourg in France. I didn't do that, but I highly recommend a lot of your listeners to check it out. The idea really is to receive again, a set of lectures and courses on aerospace engineering, but also space law. Obviously, you get to meet some astronauts and hear from them. Actually, I believe you had Andy Aldrin as one of your podcast guests.
We did, Andy Aldrin. And by the way, ISU, when they were doing this was one of the first, and at the time, one of the very few things that were actually doing this, which is a bit surprising to me that that's true, but it was unique.
So Andy was one of my professors at ISU. I had, oh my God, I had Jeff Hoffman, also MIT professor, as a professor at ISU. It's really, it's not only about the people who would teach, it's really about that community of people. I think it was, my class was probably 120 international students strong. Again, all walks of life, all ages, some professionals in the space, some people who were new to the space. And so you go through this first block of lectures, and then you start working on team projects, and you work on that for the second half of the program. And our team project was very interesting. I remember it was about applying open innovation methods. It was kind of one of those, the heydays of open innovation back then. Open innovation to an asteroid mining mission. And so, you work with a group of 30 people on delivering a paper, a white paper, a research project that just makes sense from a technical standpoint, from a business standpoint. You work on the business case, on the potential exit strategies, and you interview a lot of very cool people to do that. I would say, to answer your initial question, how I ended up there, I was very lucky to meet some incredible mentors along my journey. And Francois, my friend Francois Spiro, is one of them. Francois used to manage human spaceflight at CNES, the space agency. And I met him at a conference where Charlie Bolden, the former NASA administrator, came to Paris, delivered a talk. Francois was sitting in front of me. I was probably a 19-year-old student, and I introduced myself, and we became good friends. And Francois is the one who put ISU on my map, because he had been to, I think, the very first one or the second one back in 1990. So yeah,
Nice.
incredible group of people. I highly encourage anyone to check the International Space University. You will have a
Nice.
lot of fun and build lifetime friendships.
Absolutely. So I'm going to skip a bit over your time as in finance, because that's a skill set you actually have, and in venture capital, and that's a skill set you have had, which comes in very handy in the space domain for lots of different reasons. So just another side of Hugo that we're not going to spend a lot of time on today, because I want to get to talking about what you're doing now at Airbus. And as I've said, you've been involved in the edge of innovative thinking and promoting the innovation mindset for many years. And Airbus has really afforded you the opportunity, I believe, to do that in exciting ways. And these days, for a little while now, you've been working on, well, why don't you tell us, what is your role at Airbus? What are you working on?
Well, I'm incredibly lucky to work on a next generation sustainable aircraft program that's called the hydrogen powered aircraft, nicknamed Zero E here at Airbus. It's really our answer to try and get us as close as possible to our decarbonization targets. We realized early on that we probably would fall short of meeting the 2015 net zero goals if we didn't take a radical decision to just move away from jet fuel, right, as an energy carrier. And so after conducting numerous studies, we kind of settled on hydrogen as the fuel of choice to do that in a responsible and hopefully sustainable way. Hydrogen has many interesting properties. It's the most abundant molecule in the universe. That's
by far,
cool. By far. So there's something to be said about that. But really, when it is produced in the most sustainable way possible, so when you make green hydrogen from renewable energy sources, it ends up being what will enable, I think, the aviation industry to reach its decarbonization goals. So, there's no silver bullet.
How does hydrogen work in an aircraft? What's different about doing hydrogen in an aircraft? What are the risks? What are the benefits?
So basically, the idea is you use hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, as a fuel in basically two different ways. You can burn the hydrogen in a optimized gas turbine engine, the way we traditionally burn kerosene right now in gas turbine engines. So this is challenging because it means that you need to store the hydrogen within the aircraft at very, very low temperatures, actually at cryogenic temperatures, so you're reaching minus 253 Celsius. That's one of the key challenges to do that. Another use of hydrogen, once you have hydrogen on board, you can power fuel cells, and you're familiar with fuel cells. They offer the opportunity to also help drive the motors. They offer the opportunity to power all the non-propulsive systems of the aircraft. So the auxiliary power unit, everything that's not power related as well. And so Airbus 4 years ago unveiled this concept of hydrogen-powered aircraft, namely a turboprop aircraft, a turbofan aircraft, and a blended wing body, with the ambition to reach an aircraft capacity of 100 to 200 seats and a range of 1,000 nautical miles to 2,000 nautical miles, which is good enough to target roughly 60% of the carbon emissions of the industry. It's not a silver bullet to entirely decarbonize the industry, and we'll need other more sustainable fuels like sustainable aviation fuels, biomass-based fuels. But hydrogen will also play an interesting role in what we call synthetic fuels, also known as power-to-liquid. And the idea there is to combine hydrogen produced, again, hopefully through renewable energy, with stored carbon. So if you're familiar, as you are, Jonathan, with carbon sequestration methods, you can combine hydrogen with carbon and create, monocarbons, liquid monocarbons that can be used for aviation purposes as well. So, we're looking at those different energy pathways. I tend to think that hydrogen is kind of the ultimate pathway, using hydrogen in its pure form, the molecule of hydrogen in its pure form to, again, for combustion purposes or through fuel cells. And it's been an extremely rewarding journey, I have to say. So my role here in the US, I'm based in San Francisco, is to ensure that we first of all, that we partner with the best American companies that can help us achieve that goal, because Airbus cannot do it alone, right? It's going to take a village. The US has an incredible history of handling hydrogen for space and aircraft missions. Actually, NASA flew a hydrogen aircraft back in the 50s. The Russians did it in the 80s. So it has been done in the past. There is a question of, if it can be done in the next 10 years, then we need to accelerate on the regulatory front. We need to accelerate the overall energy transition of sectors beyond the aviation industry, because you need to to incentivize the production and the end use of hydrogen. So, kudos to the Department of Energy here in the U.S. that has already invested billions of dollars into creating what are called regional clean hydrogen hubs. And by the way, California is going to be its own clean regional hydrogen hub for medium duty transportation, heavy duty transportation, long haul trucks, for maritime, and hopefully for us, for aviation as well. So yeah, what I've been loving the most about my position is ensuring that whole ecosystem is in place and ready for our plane, to take off in the mid 30s, hopefully. Ensuring the regulatory framework is also in place, but also, and the most rewarding part of the journey, probably, Jonathan, you know me, it's to interact at the human level with the researchers that have been doing this for decades, with the students that are just learning how to, the properties of hydrogen as we speak, partnering with academic labs, federal research labs, early stage companies, ensuring that the workforce of tomorrow is also ready to help the industry and step up, right? That has been the most rewarding part of that journey.
Nice, nice. And I love your focus on humans and climate for humans as you do this. And I know that's something that's very that you have a passion for, is really thinking about how do we make this place, this wonderful blue marble, this continue to make it the special place it has become over several billion years. How do you imagine the hydrogen domain influencing what happens as we push even further out beyond aviation and into space? Are these learnings that are going to serve us well for other things beyond below Leo?
Actually, it's been the other way around, my friend. We are applying lessons learned from the space shuttle era to inform our hydrogen-powered aircraft roadmap. So hydrogen has been used for space missions since the 50s, and plays a critical role to launch payload into orbit, to launch humans into orbit as well. And it's actually fascinating if you look at what happened during the climax of the space shuttle missions. NASA, and more specifically NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida, became really the center that pushed the envelope when it came to understanding the properties of hydrogen, handling cryogenic hydrogen as well, storing hydrogen in a safe way, avoiding what we call boil off, so evaporation of hydrogen once it is stored on the ground. And my now good friend James Fesmeyer, I will name his name because he's nicknamed the Pope of cryogenics, and I got to meet James through my work at Airbus. James co-founded the NASA Cryogenics Lab at Kennedy Space Center that is still today running, although as you know, the shuttle missions unfortunately are not anymore, but it is still the place that's pushing the envelope when it comes to understanding the safe use of hydrogen in aerospace. So, understanding better how a company like Airbus can benefit from this type of relationships has also been my bread and butter, and something I've particularly enjoyed. I'd be remiss not to mention incredible work, Jonathan, happening at Washington State University as well. Washington State University is the only academic lab that's doing research on cryogenic hydrogen. There is only one. I am extremely proud to be partnered with Dr. Jake Leachman at Washington State University and his students. Some of them have actually already joined the Airbus ranks, and we're absolutely grateful that they have joined us. I hope more will join us. But Jake basically worked on the equations of state of the liquefaction of hydrogen when he was a student. So imagine working with that guy, right? Really understanding what it means to go from gaseous hydrogen to liquid hydrogen, and the other way around, and doing it in a way that can serve a mission as humble as it is as decarbonizing the aviation industry and other hard-to-abate sectors. It's been incredibly rewarding to work with Jake and his students.
Very nice. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I don't believe that people do realize how we've been using hydrogen peroxide for space fuel. Soyuz rockets use it. ESA uses it on rockets to launch. It's been around, as you said, for quite some time. And I don't know that people realize just how big Airbus is these days. It is the largest manufacturer of commercial aircraft and helicopters in the world. So, a very good company to be working on this. So, it
I
just
will,
must be exciting.
I will add something else when it comes to the potential future use of hydrogen in our field.
Please.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I've been intrigued as of late by some of the developments in the nuclear fusion space. And I know you're also, taking a keen and very interested look at what's happening there. Here in the US, we're talking about more than $5 billion that have been invested in the past 10-ish years on nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion uses, hydrogen as well to make the chemistry work. And one can really wonder what could be the long-term potential use cases of applying nuclear fusion to aircraft and spacecraft propulsion. I think that's going to be on the horizon. I think the likes of DARPA and the U.S. Air Force are starting to pay attention to what's happening in that space. I'm incredibly lucky to advise a startup in the space called Aerofuse as well, and I think others will be paying more and more attention to what's happening.
Fabulous. And of course, I think we all know that the answer for a lot of this is going to be, as you mentioned earlier, the mix of a variety of different things. And we might have some end goals, but it's going to take us a while to get there for our energy goals, right? We're not going to, as you said, there's no silver bullet in the short term in sight. However, in the long term, there might be some, but it's going to take that mix to get there. We only have a few minutes left, and so I'd love to ask you this, because you did mention something that I've always appreciated about you, and I feel passionately the same way. As you think about how you sort of stood on the shoulders of giants, as we say, and you are looking to those who are coming along now. And I'm curious what you think about how not just secondary and college and graduate schools can help us to be more like Hugo, but what kind of things can we start to do in primary schools, and what kind of journeys can we help people do to have that inspiration so that future generations really think about pursuing these kinds of opportunities related to climate, related to making things better, related to space exploration. What are your thoughts on that?
The $1 million question. Well, I think everyone here is familiar with STEM, the STEM field: science, technology, engineering, and math. I like to use the second version of STEM, where we add the A, STEAM, and as you know, the A stands for arts, because I believe I'm 100% convinced that it is through inspiring the younger generation through any art form that they can look up, they can be amazed by the cosmos and what's happening up there. Obviously, you and I have some of the quotes of someone like Carl Sagan in mind, right? I think the Carl Sagan of today is probably someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's doing an incredible work to democratize access to to this type of knowledge in a way that I hope and I think is compelling enough and inspiring enough for young kids to take a keen interest in not only the beauty of looking at the stars, of looking at a comet. There is one passing around us as we speak right now, and It doesn't take much to get out there. I encourage anyone at or on sunset, look to the west near Venus, and you'll probably be able to see it with your naked eyes. But yeah, putting back some form of art to inspire the young generations to study STEM domains is probably what will make the most sense. But hey, at the end of the day, Jonathan, it's about also creating your own luck. I think by creating your own luck, you need to you also need to put yourself in a position where you actively seek mentorship from other people. I mentioned, one of my mentors. I don't have a lot, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you have, in terms of people who influence your journey, you have dead people, unfortunately. So
those who have
figures
come
of the
before.
past, those who have
Yes.
come before us, and whose work have been inspiring. You have people, within your generation that you look up to, and you have friends who are ready to lend a hand. And actually, I don't want to finish this podcast, Jonathan, without saying thank you for being one of those friends. You met me when I was still a student, very boring student. You met me when, I probably wasn't speaking as good English as I speak now. And you were always patient and opened the doors to your community. I think there is something to be said about, some of the design nights that you used to throw here in San Francisco and the heydays of San Francisco. I mean, come on. And
Thank you, Hugo.
this focus that you've always had, and that our mutual friend Michael Holly has also instilled in me, to take this generalist approach at things, to let the beauty of the world, would it be from space, from the ocean, converge into something meaningful for others. It has meant the world to me, and I am in your debt. So thank you so much.
Those are very kind and words, and it's generous of you to say so. And it makes my heart leap for joy to see those characteristics in you. And thank you for mentioning our good friend Michael Hawley. People should look him up. They don't know anything about him. He's an MIT faculty member. He's one of the most, he's one of my best friends. So check him out, folks. And thank you for that, Hugo. And well done for you on this journey, because you are becoming the even better version of everything you just said. And that feels so good, because it should be that way. And by the way, that approach you just described is how we approach what we do here with regards to the FDL, the Earth Systems Lab, the Helio Lab. That is the approach that we take. So thank you. Hey, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. We could do this for a very long time. And we have in the past, but I'm so happy that you were able to take some time and share with us today. We appreciate you, and we look forward to hearing other things about you in the future that you are working on, because I know you're always bubbling with new ideas up there, Hugo. Ladies and gentlemen, Hugo Wagner from Airbus. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Hugo.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to everyone at FDL. Incredible work.